So in this video we're going to be fixing this engine, which is the Bachmann 280 Consolidation. So this engine is one that we got recently at the train store. In the last video we tested it and it did nothing except for the light. The light worked, but nothing from the engine, nothing from the motor. Wheels didn't turn at all. This thing, even though the cosmetic stuff is still there, if you've already noticed probably by now, look how dirty this thing is. You can see all the hair and stuff that's in the wheels and the large layer of dust on it, which probably isn't helping. So I can only imagine that it's been sitting for a really long time. So this is going to be an interesting one. Plus these are kind of notorious for not running very well, so that's also against us. But we'll have to take it apart and see how it is. So with this engine, there's a few screws on the bottom. There's one on the very back. And there's a little small hole in the base of the engine. And then there's also one on the front here. I'm just going to take all the screws off the bottom to see if I can get anything off. So this one takes off the front truck, which just lost the spring on the ground. That's going to be nice to find. So I found the spring. I put it in this little container over here. So we'll take the rest of the screws that I can see off, and well, I'm going to try and get this base off. There might be one on the top as well. Nothing that I can see. Well, I forgot that on these consolidations there are two. There's one here, and one on the other side as well. So I think those hold in something. I'm not really sure what. I'm not remembering anything what they hold in or not. But let's see. This other one's kinda must be stripped. There we go. Came out. And I'll have the shell off. So the shell came off, it was just those screws. But one thing I've noticed is, one, the motor is completely stuck, and I think that is because it's weird, there's something very sticky on the drive axles. You can see it on my finger. It looks like grease, but it's almost, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's not nice. So the motor's going to have to come out of this thing. So it's just 4 screws, 2 on each side, and those just have to come out to be able to get the motor out. So here's the motor. As you can see, this gear, the big one, the spiral one, is just stuck to it pretty much. There's like weird green sort of grease. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but that motor is stuck. I can hardly move it. I can move it, but barely. So we're going to have to take this motor apart and clean it very thoroughly, I think, as it's just 4 screws to get these motors apart. They're very simple motors, the Bachmann ones. They're just little tiny 3 poles, which I don't really like, because they put these motors in a lot of the steam engines in the 80s, and the ones they put in the diesels were bigger, which I don't know why they did that. Probably because these were more compact, but they really aren't that much smaller than the diesel motors, if I'm being honest. But as you can see, just the 4 screws and the springs and everything are in here, which they look very compressed. They're definitely not looking like springs, as you can see, if you can see. Let's see if I can get it to focus. Yeah, on the end of the screwdriver, the springs are very compressed. So I'll get the whole motor apart and I'll be right back. So here I got the motor apart. As you can see, everything on this motor is disgusting, and I have no idea, and I don't really want to know what all this stuff is that they put on there, but I will clean the motor now. After I cleaned the motor, I noticed how dirty this was, the brush plate. It is even probably worse. So that's gonna have to be cleaned as well. So I got the motor back together, and I'm going to test it now. I've got it here. So I cleaned it, took everything apart, and I'm just going to see if it does anything. I'm not really expecting it to. And nothing, so that's going to need a little bit more work. So I'm feeling very smart right now. I tested the motor earlier and it didn't work. So I wondered about it, and then I looked at it and I realized that I forgot to put the magnets back in. And so after that it actually worked. Surprise, surprise. But that's why I'm not a brain surgeon, because I'd probably forget something vital. So now I'm going to show you that the motor actually does work, because had a little bit of problems when I first started, because the motor's definitely been overheated at some point, but as you can see, the motor now works. It probably just needs to run a little bit now that I've actually got it cleaned out and to where it's actually in a good running condition. So here we are about half an hour later. This thing is incredibly annoying to put back together and frustrating. Everything is kind of just sandwiched together with that split chassis design, and it was just very annoying, so I didn't make you watch that. But now we've got pretty much the chassis put back together, and we have to put the rest of the screws on the top. But before I put the shell on, I'll probably test it just to make sure it works. So I put the screws for the bottom back on, so we're gonna see if this thing will do anything at all. Not really sure what to expect with it, but let's see. Got nothing. So we'll have to see. I'll have to see if this thing will actually, the motor will run with the wheels on it.